Chelsea are getting relegated from the Premier League because of illegal payments.
We'll be there.
Do you care though?
We will be there.
Man City are getting relegated from the Premier League because of fraud.
We will be there. We'll be there.
So, Everton have been given a 10-point deduction for their FFP financial fair play violation, okay? So, essentially, Everton, the nature of their breach was the fact that they've gone beyond the profit and sustainability rules, and they have made about 124 million losses, and the limit through a 3-year period is supposed to be 105, right? So Everton have actually complied with this whole investigation that the Premier League has gone through. They've cooperated, they've been a good guy, and they've admitted that they were guilty, but they say we're just not that guilty because, I mean, being about 19 million over is really not that much when it comes to football money, and they've been effectively punished for it. And this has seen Everton go from 14th to 19th, joint bottom, only off the bottom because of goal difference, which is superior, much superior to Burnley. To be fair, Everton have been completely not as bad as people have expected them to be. They're really on good form. They're getting good results. They're winning some games. And it's actually really unfair on the players to get sunk in literally the depth of the relegation zone. I think they will still survive. I think there are worse teams in this division this season. So maybe it might not be the worst thing, but essentially, I think it's a standard that has been set by the Premier League. Now, what about Chelsea? If Everton have been given 10 points for one charge, and that only relates to the fact that they've made losses, what about Chelsea? We're not even talking about the billion that Todd Bowley has spent since he's taken over on players. We're not even talking about that spend. But actually, there has been illegal payments that have been made, or the allegation is that there's been illegal payments that Roman Abramovich related companies or offshore vehicles have made payments on behalf of Chelsea. These payments stretch back all the way to 2012. And effectively, this has distorted the financial reporting of Chelsea when it comes to their actual spending, because now obviously they are omitted from their actual financial statements or financial results. So therefore, they could be in breach if they were to include those type of payments in their spending. They could be in breach of the profit and sustainability rules, just like Everton. Now, these things relate to payments in relation to Eden Hazard's transfer, Samuel Eto'o Williams' transfer, and also payments in relation to the wages of Antonio Conte. To be fair, when Todd Bowley took over, they obviously did their due diligence and they found some what they call incomplete accounting or reporting of financial information, and actually reported this themselves to the Premier League and to UEFA. And with UEFA, they actually gave them a small fine, but it is worth noting that UEFA technically has this statute of limitations where they can't investigate things that happened more than 5 years back, and therefore there's a whole limit to the punishment that Chelsea can get, right? The Premier League has no such statute of limitations, so they can go back as far as they want, and obviously that would lead, one would assume, to a greater punishment. But you can best believe that there's no way that Todd Bowley and Clear Lake Capital have bought Chelsea for more than 4 billion and invested a further billion into players just to see that value crumble into shambles if Chelsea get relegated. Obviously, they are ready to fight the Premier League and whatever ruling that they want to come with, if negative, tooth and nail. Now we come to the big dog. Man City have been accused of complete fraud. They have been accused of hiding how much actually players' wages were. They're accused of hiding how much the manager's wages were as well, Roberto Mancini, who was City's first title-winning coach. Obviously, hiding such financial information, which is crucial for the calculation of whether or not you're compliant with the profit and sustainability laws, puts you at a potential breach. And they've also been accused of non-compliance, so not fully cooperating with the investigation, providing all the documents that are necessary. And yes, and there's a lot of potential punishment that's also on the cards for City, including relegation. There's also this notion of a conspiracy theory that demands Man City's titles to be stripped away from them, okay? And I do not understand how that works in real life. For example, Everton's 10-point deduction for a breach that's related to prior years. Everton survived relegation for the past 2 seasons by not more than 10 points. And it has come forward that Burnley, Leeds and Leicester City, who were relegated from the Premier League, have submitted a claim of in total about 300 million in financial losses, because if Everton were found guilty and the breach actually relates to previous years and the points had been deducted in those seasons, Everton would have definitely been relegated and one of those teams would have survived. So already that causes a problem. Now, if we're saying Man City's points be retrospectively deducted and titles are stripped, what do we mean? Do we not give a winner for those seasons? Do the runner-ups become the winners? Do they now get the trophy and Man City's name erased, their name written on? They throw a parade and a bus tour? I just don't understand what they do. Do they celebrate? Do they call all the players that were at the club at the time back? I just don't understand how it works. In theory, they didn't win. Essentially, they lost on the pitch. And I do think that it was 11 v 11 at the end of the day. Although I must agree that Man City and Chelsea would have, and even Everton in this case, would have gotten an unfair sporting advantage because they were not compliant with the rules that would have forced them to play within a specific parameter. Okay, so that I'm fine with, but I do not necessarily think that the Premier League knows how to enforce a retrospective punishment. This is uncharted territory, and once again, nothing is off limits, but I just don't think that's very realistic. Do you think Caldron would take this sitting down? He's probably just looking at us exactly like this, laughing at the Premier League because he knows what he has up his sleeves. Do you think Sheikh Mansour is ready to lose to the Premier League in court? I do not think so. We know that Man City have been dragged to the courts before with UEFA and actually embarrassed them. Man City reassured Pep Guardiola and said, no, we got this under control, when UEFA accused City of similar infringements and actually banned them for 2 years and fined Man City 30 million for their breach of financial fair play regulations. Man City assembled the adventures of the best lawyers in the world and just simply went to go embarrass UEFA in court and get it overturned, and ended up paying a small fine of about £9 million. And obviously the ban got overturned. That just made the players really motivated. That's the time City got to the final and then also got to the semi-final, and now they've won it. This is in a span of 3 years. Man City have now hired one of the best lawyers in the UK to represent them, and this is a man that was defending the Prime Minister himself, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. And frankly, the main thing is that these accusations from the Premier League are actually stemming from leaked documents by the Portuguese hacker Pinto, who submitted these leaks to Die Spiegel. Pinto himself is currently under investigation, and he's actually been arrested and has 147 charges against his name for cyber crimes and extortion. So you actually can't necessarily use that evidence in court, and therefore Man City feel like the Premier League will have a weaker case, since it's basing most of its evidence, or if it is basing most of its evidence, of these leaked documents, just like UEFA did. But in conclusion, 115 charges against Man City. I think it's more than likely and more than probable that we can expect that some of them would be at least convicted, although I do not expect that all of them are convicted. I think that would mean that the lawyer is not that good, in my opinion. I do think that Man City will be punished for some of those. I just don't know, and I can't guess how severe the punishment would be. I expect the same for Chelsea also, if Man City is also found guilty. But like normal, more charges, therefore there would be a longer time to investigate this. It might take the next year or two even to get this resolved, and that's normal like any other court situation. Everton only had one charge and they pleaded guilty already. So I don't know. But I am completely interested though in knowing what team Man City and Chelsea fans will be supporting once their teams get relegated to the Sunday leagues.